Welcome back, friend. Now we are going to move up the center column and we're going to walk through the channel of the beat, this 14 to the 2. This is the design of the Keeper of the Keys. So this is a very significant channel. And why is it significant? Well, there's lots of things happening here. First, the second gate is the seat of the magnetic monopole. The whole channel, the 14-2, this is involved in family penta, business penta, and it also is in the Wa. And what the Wa and the penta are, they are trans-auric entities that when human beings come together, there's energies that are brought in, that are utilized for material gain. And the 14-2 holds all of this together. So the whole point of this is to understand that direction in life must be from response. Now, some of you are going, but that's not my type. That's not my, I am an advisor or a projector. I'm not here to respond. We are all designed to respond because remember, when you put all of the gates, everything, every line, every gate, everything, say it was all defined in the human design body graph. We have an emotional manifesting generator. We are all designed to have a response. It looks completely different for each type. Here, this is a response to people requesting the energy because, of course, as you notice, the sacral is defined to the identity. This is about individuality. You're going to notice that there's frustration and satisfaction built right into the energy frequency here. There's also melancholy. Remember, we are in the individuality. This is about empowerment. It is right now. It is acoustic. It is hearing. And the understanding here between the sacral center and the identity center, these are tantric, meaning there's a tantric knowing here. This is identity that is generated into the world. The empowered, generated identity of direction. Tantric is about this generated energy that moves from the 5, the 29, and the 14, and this generated energy that moves us into the identity of the 15, the 2, and the 46. The magnetic monopole sits in the second gate. It is very, very receptive, the second gate. So if you look at the hexagram, which I have depicted it as we walk through here, but the hexagram itself is all yin. It's all yin. It is receptive. So this is the center of the human mutative direction in life. With every mutation, the nature of the game changes. Mutation is a deep driving force in the life. The direction these people are going gives the other a key to their own direction. Now get this, okay? The direction that these people are going gives the other a key to their own direction. If you have this in your chart, responding to your own direction, just allowing for the physical body to literally adapt and mutate to the mutative energy that flows through you and responding to that mutative direction allows other people the keys to their own direction. The mutation is empowered. The direction is not about the mind. This is not to be initiated. It is simply a matter of response. Mutative direction is only possible through response. Individuals empower through being an example. Why do we say that? So the 1 to the 8, the channel of inspiration and the channel of the role model, this is all about being an example. Individuals are an example. And we saw that in the 2212, where others are attentive to us. They want to see the mutation that goes on in an individual. And they want to see us be an example of it so that they can find their own direction. So the second gate is a very important Sphinx incarnation cross. This is a part of the locks that keep us in the illusion. And again, you guys have the video that I did about the global orchestrated directory. There are locks. The locks are the 8 gates in the identity center. And the keys move around in the global orchestrated directory. And we are moving from the cross of planning and the cross of the Maya to the cross of the sleeping phoenix and the cross of penetration. There's only one direction, and that is why it is called the Keeper of the Keys. It is your direction. Now, is there only one direction for 8 billion people? Yeah, their own. Because it's individual and it's mutative. There's a natural direction that comes out of response. You don't know what your key is or where your key is unless you are asked. That is so important for all generators, manifesting generators, and everybody on our planet to understand that the direction does not come mentally. The direction allows us to begin our movement here in the second gate. This is the beginning. This is the beginning of civilization, of the form in the second quarter. And this is about what is the direction for humanity. And the 14 is totally mutative. It's already looking at the transformation, the mutative energy. Has to come from response as to what the direction is. If the mind is in the way, the direction will always be skewed. So once asked, you know your direction. So the 60 to the 3, we've already discussed that, responds to the potential of the mutation. But the 14-2 drives you there. It literally drives you there. The 2 is the driver. That's why we are always saying, be a witness. Literally be the passenger and let this vehicle do its job. Let this vehicle navigate because it knows how to. It has the GPS. It already knows the way. You know, the channel of the beat is actually the pulse. Remember, we're in this individuality and individual circuitry. There's a pulse. It's off, it's off, it's off, it's on, it's off, it's off, it's off, it's on. There's a motorized melancholy here. So be creative until the melancholy passes, and the response is a guide to your direction. But all too often, what happens is the restlessness within the mutative process, you know, almost makes us itchy from the inside out. And we try to release that energy and that itchiness in unhealthy ways. So providing the energy and resources needed to empower a creative new direction. So you can bring innovative and empowering new direction to people, projects, and the planet simply by listening to and trusting your gut response. So you are able to sustain your own creative efforts or materially provide for the encouragement others for and encourage others in their own creative direction. All individuality empowers through example. So your first task is to be true to yourself and live your own destiny. Direct and purpose. Direction and purpose. Now we will be talking about purpose in the next section. Here we're talking about channels. Then we're going to go into incarnation crosses and purpose so that we can see the overarching energy. So, what's your type? That type allows you the big picture role. So, are you an advisor? Are you an builder? Are you an innovator? Are you an evaluator? And then we have your profile. How does that show up? You know, are you an investigator? Are you natural at it? Are you a pioneer at it? Are you the one, externalizing the information? Are you the messenger? Or are you here to be the role model? Those, that's the next layer of the profile. And then inside of all of that, we will then have the incarnation cross and the purpose. And then inside of all of that, layers and umbrellas and layers and umbrellas, then we have the energy of the circuitry. So how it all shows up to then present itself to the world. When you trust that life will make decisions through you, you empower others in a purely mechanical way by giving them a sense of direction in just being around you. So as I said, this is an important energy field. Why? The 14 is generating resources for the individual, for the business, and for the family and for the WA. So when we look at it in a family dynamic, this is about demands. This is the demand for material possession, material wealth. And in the business world, it is the capacity to generate money, resources. So resources can be energetic, resources can be money, resources can be time, resources can be food, resources can be a lot of things. And the 14 is like a treasure chest. That is the possession in great measure for the entire construct. It's for individuals, groups, and large groups. The 2 is the visionary. How are we going to spend this money? How are we going to use the material in order to move us into the correct direction for us so that we have the correct perspective? That's what the 2 does. It provides us with our direction so that we can have the correct perspective. And we're going to talk about that when we get to the second gate. So the 14 and the 2 literally locks the penta into the WA. It's all about direction. And its concern is to communicate and organize the direction of the large group and the business. So if you have any of this energy, know that you will be pulled into groups and you will be utilized in large groups to provide a direction. So if you have the whole channel, or if you just have the 2, provides the direction. If you just have the 14, like I do, groups want your resources. Other individuals want your resources because they totally see this treasure chest that's happening here. I totally recognize this. In every relationship, I totally recognize this, and we'll talk about it when we get to the 14. So let's move on here. So the 14, this gate of power skills, possession in great measure. So this is the energy to empower the driver. Remember, the driver is the 2. The 2 is the magnetic monopole. That is what's holding us together in this illusion. Okay? So the 14 literally brings the power to the driver. It's like the gas pedal, okay? It's bringing the energy. The 14 is deeply material because it is required to literally generate resources for itself, generate resources for groups, generate resources for large groups. This resides in the quarter of mutation. The most material gate of all, this is the gate of money, this is the possession in great measure. Again, the gas pedal. It does not give away its power because power is currency. So when we get to, in the self-mastery movement, when we get to the section where we talk about abundance, when we talk about generating resources, when we talk about money, the whole thing with human design is that you are the currency. You are the currency. And because you are here, we all have the power to be individuated and be the currency. This has nothing to do with a valuation system outside of yourself. This energy is a force to bring about the right direction. It is focused on bringing about order through empowering the right direction. Now, why do we say it's focused on bringing about order? Well, we have the 60 to the 3. What did the 3 do? The 3 is all about, confusion and difficulty in the beginning, but it's about bringing order to the chaos. So the 3 and the 14 actually work hand in hand and work very well together. Because the whole point of that is to say, listen, we need to have an order, and then I will empower that order in order for us to move in the right direction. So you are the currency. We're going to move very deeply into this piece when we get to the abundance piece in the self-mastery movement, because it is so freaking important. So this is the potential to empower the direction of others through the distribution of available resources. You have the potential and the energy to sustain long hours of creative work doing something that you love. When you love what you do, you have the potential to generate great wealth and power. The resources you create or have access to are not necessarily for your own use, but rather yours to manage in order to empower others. To protect your resources from misuse or abuse by others, it is important to pay attention to what you respond to. Then follow your gut and wait for clarity before investing. Make sure that you know how you are using this resource. Why does it say wait for clarity? Well, again, the individual circuitry all runs through the emotional center. So even though the sacral gut response might be, wait for clarity before you invest. Your power skills are best utilized for growth and empowering direction, creativity, and vision. So here's what I'm going to share with you. I have this twice in my chart. My husband has it twice in his chart. I'm not going to say that we are rich beyond rich, but we have accumulated some wealth. We live a comfortable life. And I think I've shared this in other videos and in other YouTube videos where people that come into the aura of myself and my husband, the one electromagnetic that we have is the 2946. This is succeeding where other people fail or failing where other people succeed. We also have the 5611 as an electromagnetic. So this is about this curiosity, the wanderer. When people come into the aura of myself and my husband, they see all this possession in great measure, and they want it. They want our success. And they feel like they are owed something. And for a very long time, until I knew human design deeply and could recognize this, we gave a lot away a lot of resources. And for me, it was from guilt. And now I can recognize that energy when it shows up. I can recognize when people feel like my husband and I owe them something. And, it's like, what? We don't owe them anything. But they feel as though because we have this treasure chest, that they should be able to dip their fingers in it. Now, are we generous people? Yeah, we are very generous people. However, no longer does the guilt factor, because that's my transference mentally, play any part in this at all. I can recognize those that are here to enhance our direction and those that are here to distort our direction. And also what is healthy and good for them as well. Because it isn't about, taking, it is about utilizing resources correctly, if that makes sense. Now, when we look at the 14, the accumulation and retention of power through skilled interaction, coupling grace with control. Again, this isn't about giving away the resources because we have them. The right angle cross of contagion is conveying concepts of mutation to those who respond to it. The empowering of the juxtaposition cross is that life of prosperity that empowers yourself and others. And the left angle cross of uncertainty, life is a mystery to be lived and not a problem to be solved. I love all of these keynotes that are built right into the 14. The right angle cross of contagion, mine's a different configuration, but understanding that the 14 is designed to generate resources, to empower, to stand in the uncertainty because there's constant mutation, and to be that contagion and convey the mutation so that the interaction with the other is one that brings grace to everyone. So the very foundation here is that money isn't everything. The recognition that wealth has its own problems. So the lust for lucre, which actually is another word for money, tempered by high principles. The key to manifesting power is higher principles. The delusion that you can throw money at any problem and energy alone can never be the key. So money isn't everything. Possession in great measure for me, what I've learned on my piece of property over the last 13 years is that this piece of property generates resources for us. So just this morning, first thing in the morning, I am out and I'm foraging. I was picking plantain and I was picking wild cabbage. I was picking a nettle, stingy nettle. So money isn't everything. And it isn't just about wealth. It's about recognizing the abundance that happens here. And the higher principles, like Mother Nature has its own ability to produce resources, and so do we. And it isn't just about money. And we can't throw money at problems. We see that. We see that in the world. If we're throwing money at problems, there's a delusion there. Money doesn't fix it. Money doesn't buy you a direction. It's about understanding that the direction comes from empowering yourself to just live in the mutation. The management piece, the wisdom that investing in expertise brings rewards. Expansion, the ability to delegate responsibility. The key to power lies in not trying to be and to do everything alone. You're taking on the mutation. However, manage these resources so that those that come to you for the key, you can provide the key. The vanity to be one's best expert. The key to power is doing everything individually. The expertise, that's what is important, is that those that are expert at it, let them in. Let them help you. Manage it. These people are naturals at possession in great measure. And people want it. The wisdom that investing in expertise brings rewards. Well, invest in the 14.2. Because when we invest in the 14.2, they can naturally provide us with the energy to find our own key in the direction in life. And then we have the third line, this service. So the utilization of talent and wealth for its highest good. Selfless contribution to society. The key to power lies in selfless contribution to others. Greed and the destruction of moral fiber. The power of selfishness to fuel greed. So when we look at greed, when it comes to this particular gate, greed is when we accumulate and we retain, but we never actually share. And the 14.3 is saying to us, you know what? we need to be of service so that, everybody can win in this. Even though this is a very, individual, quality, this is a mutative quality, it is to recognize that the only way for these guys to get through this whole process is to find some way to externalize energy as service. So when we move to the 4, this is about security. So how are we externalizing? Well, we need to establish a solid, strong foundation. Protection from assault. The key to power lies in developing skills to ensure a strong foundation. Stand, in the truth of your own abilities, in your own power skills, in your own capacity. The overconfidence in meeting the challenge of competition that may threaten the very basis of security. Without the proper skills, the inability to guarantee security. And what I love about design is that it allows us to understand our skills. It allows us to understand our best way to communicate. It allows us to understand exactly what our frequency is designed to show up and be. Stand in your power. And then you get to show it to the outside. So the 4th line is always very fixed. It's always very focused. And there's going to be one direction. So secure yourself in that direction. Manage your resources properly, be of service, and understand that money isn't everything. And stand in the security of your direction. And what will happen is that when you externalize, those that are on your trajectory, those that are on your fractal, will be able to utilize your energy and your gas pedal, and the key to their direction will present itself. Then we have arrogance, the ever-present risk inherent in positions of power. Innate dignity, the innate dignity that is the key to power. A dissatisfaction with the gifts of others that creates feelings of superiority. Innate recognition of those without power, fueling the illusion of superiority. So it's important here to know that you have the power to provide energy for direction, and people, if you don't have the 2nd gate, will allow for the direction to literally show up. But the arrogance here is like, oh, this is the direction you showed me in? This is about the dignity that is the key to power. And then we have the 6, humility, wealth and power at its most exalted, the enlightened recognition that material success is God's will. Spirituality is the key to acceptance and the source of power. So the 6th line is looking at the whole entire circuitry of the individual process. And enlightenment is to understand that when we can accept the frequency that is within the design, and we can adjust and mutate as needed as individuals, because we don't know the big game. We are here playing our piece in the game. The 3828 told us that. This is a game. Feels very personal. It's not. You know, we don't know when the end game's going to be. And it's to be absolutely, you know, have humility. All manifestations in this position are essentially positive. The earth represents the existentialist recognition that material success was unavoidable and the humility engendered by such serendipity. Existentialism as the key to acceptance and the source of power. This is important to understand. Material success is unavoidable. If you have this 14th gate in your design, if this trait is in your design, possession in great measure, wealth and power are yours. However, is it being, you know, presented? Through arrogance or through humility? You know, the world sees power as arrogance. But the highest, you know, most mutative energy here is humility. It's humility. So now let's move on to the 2. And as I said, I wanted to give you this depiction of the hexagram, the most receptive. This is higher knowing. The driver that moves us in the mutative direction, that is our own. This isn't about everybody else's direction. This is about your direction. Your ability to receive the higher knowing from source and be completely receptive to your trajectory. Be completely receptive to the direction that you have absolutely zero control over. This is walking through the mutation, step by step, having the connection with source, being completely receptive. This gate creates our movement in space. This is our geometry. And it also is the illusion of our separateness, what we call love. Because in the monopole is this, you know, holding together of us in this illusion. The Sphinx incarnation has the 7, taking a role for the future. The 1, taking a role of example in the now. And the 13, taking a role of listening in the past. So the second gate is what gives these roles a perspective or a direction. Okay? It's not about you know, the direction and then, you know, somebody's going to either move into the future. No, it's about being able to have the direction and then have the 3 perspectives. The 3 perspectives being looking forward, looking in the rearview mirror, or looking at the navel, basically watching oneself in the now all the time. That's what the Sphinx does. It provides a direction, and then it provides us with a perspective. So the nature of direction for humanity is an evolutionary direction, which is rooted in mutation. No matter how logic establishes the validity of the pattern, that pattern can always be destroyed by mutation, because mutation is the way of life. And I talked about this when we talked about the logical circuitry. The perfection and the perfection and the perfection, nothing will ever be perfected, because the individual comes along and there's mutation that permeates. This is a very primal gate. And out of all of this, different perspectives, that's where direction comes. Out of all of the evolutionary action comes this direction. This is where mutation transforms into direction. Again, the driver is the second gate, and the perspective varies once it moves to the other side of the G center. It is looking forward in the 7. It is looking in the rearview mirror of the 13, and it is looking at the navel in the 1. So, looking down, where am I right now? It is the same car driving on the same road. The direction is not altered by the perspective. The perspective is simply on the movement. So that's pretty deep, you guys. That, we're driving down this road. And, if any of you do drive, at times you're looking out the windshield. Where am I going? At times you're actually looking in the rearview mirror. And at times you literally can feel your butt in the seat and say, I am right here, right now. But the vehicle is on the road. Just because you look through the windshield doesn't mean that the vehicle went onto a different road. If you looked in the rearview mirror, the vehicle didn't go into a different road. And if you recognize your physical body sitting behind the wheel, the road didn't change. It is this perspective that changes. That's really deep. That's a deep understanding of this. So now when we look at the second gate and we walk through it. So receptivity as the primal base through which any response is determined. The root of action. Receptivity. This is about being receptive to all perspectives. Being receptive to the mutation. The right angle cross of the Sphinx. This is the direction, is your purpose in life. Juxtaposition of the driver. The more you engage with the meaning of life, the more you show direction to others. And the left angle cross of defiance, defying the current status of affairs to move to a higher principled direction. This is not about the status quo when we talk about individuality, you guys. This is mutation. So there's an intuition. This is the foundation of higher knowing, is intuition. Sensitivity to disharmony and atrophy. So direction is a mutative force. The importance of aesthetics, whether inborn or acquired. Higher knowing through aesthetics. We want our direction to be pretty. We want our direction to be, unscathed. We want it to be rainbows and unicorn farts. So when we can look at life through rose-colored glasses and know and be completely intuitive and let our intuition and our higher knowing walk us through, it isn't about, the challenge and the struggle and the muck and the mire. Even though we get so much out of all of that. And we know that from the 3955 and the 3828. But it really is about, it kind of is beautiful to walk through this human life when we are doing it from a place of the human design, strategy, and authority versus through the mind. So the assertion of ego in spirit of wisdom, in spite, of wisdom. So the urge for action that will ignore the wisdom of the higher self. And when that happens, when the ego gets involved, there is no ego here. The material direction, the resources, the higher knowing, the receptivity to source. There's no ego here, you guys. But once the ego comes in, once the not self comes in, once the conditioned mind, we've been pulled off of our wisdom, and the aesthetics are not that beautiful. But when we can actually be completely receptive, the aesthetics are beautiful. No matter what challenge you bump up against. The genius here, unconscious and unlearnable alignment to stimulus and response. This is the natural. The innate strength to focus and realize. A natural gift for unlearnable knowing. Genius as madness. We know this, freak to geniuses, right? Genius to freak. So the knowledge exclusively as power for the enhancement of the ego, the delusion that knowledge is power. This is about connection, and this is about, trusting that the mutation and the adjustment and the mutative energy will be the guide. People look at this and go, hey, these people actually know which direction we're going. And they may not know. Second lines don't really know what their own natural gifts are. They're geniuses. However, they don't really know that. They have a natural gift for, unlearnable knowing. Because right here it is saying higher knowing, receptive. And then 3 is patience, the teacher that never stops being the student. Dedication to a lifetime of receptivity with the maturity to accept that the process never ends. When connected permanently to the 14 through the beat channel, rewards for services rendered. The recognition that receptivity is a lifelong process. For the revolutionary, patience is vice. Higher knowing that cannot wait and demands expression. The conditioned mind demands that we find our direction, and yet it gets so cluttered, so distracted, it cannot be receptive. The teacher that never stops being the student, be patient. Human design, and I see this, I'm going to give a little rant here, all over social media. And people want the answer right now. Tell me what this gate is going to do for me. Tell me what this is going to do. How can I make money with this? And they want the answer today, and yet they want to put it in mentally, and they want it to happen now. That is not human design. Human design is a lifelong process. Being human is a lifelong process. Patience is the direction. Secretiveness, more than modesty, the ability to preserve harmony through discretion. The higher, I'm just gonna take a look at, the higher goal transcends personal acclaim. The team player, acknowledged as the leader, but never the captain. Higher knowing does not have to be expressed to be recognized. What I recognize in these people, when the second gate is there, the 2.4, what I recognize in these people is that when they show up, there is this key that provides this unlocking. They don't even have to speak it. They don't even have to speak it. What will happen is loose lips sink ships. The unquenchable fire of the ego engenders enmity. The inability to keep silent when the opportunity arises for expression. Because this isn't about, the two isn't an expression. The two, this higher knowing, this receptivity, this secretness. Again, more than modesty, they just show up. And the keys are provided through their ability to just be discreet about their own direction. And then the 5 is this intelligent application, the strategist with Mercury exalted, reasoned management of resources, higher knowing as a gift of strategy. Remember, the 2 is looking and requires the 14. It looks for those resources, and it's going to intelligently apply those resources with a higher knowing. So the inability to share respondability or recognize the abilities of others, higher knowing as an exclusively individual and selfish process. And then 6. This is a very interesting gate, because what happens here is that the 6 here is actually kind of negative. Because what will happen is that the 6 is designed to see the whole picture. It's designed to be on the horizon, to see all of the energy of the individual circuitry. But it becomes fixated. And with Mercury exalted, less negative, though the intellect becomes absorbed in constant rationalization, higher knowing that it is extremely narrow in its security. The 6 is desperate to see the whole picture, but here it is unable and unwilling. It gets very fixated. So it can feel very negative here. We as humans do this. We get fixated on a collective direction. We get fixated on the tribal direction. So the need for security may distort awareness to its ultimate perversion and destruction. The higher self absorbs with the mundane and the need for security. So for me, what this is saying to us is that when we can just trust our intuition and our higher knowing and be patient and allow for our genius to come through and be very discreet about our own direction and intelligently apply our resources, because, the teacher never stops being the student. Learn, sit in meditation, do cleanses, clean out that receptive hexagram, clean out the funnel, the tube, whatever you want to say, where the receptivity comes in. And just be aware of, what are you fixating on? Is it this fixation of a mundane direction of the collective and the tribe, or are you actually able to, relax into your own direction? And that's why, purpose and direction, it's a billion-dollar business. People want the resources that everybody else has. We get fixated on that, instead of recognizing we each and every one of us have the ability to drop into our own intuitive genius and to intelligently apply with patience our own direction. All right, friend, watch this play out in the world. If this is in your body graph, write down the keynotes. Watch how it presents itself. See what the mind does to get in the way of it. And we will move on to the 1